go. Oh, I need to change it to. Yo, are we live right now or no? Awesome. What is going on, guys? It's Lando from the Snap Fantasy Football Podcast here to answer every one of your start sit questions. Make sure you get me on Twitter at LandoFF. We've got a main account, Snap_Fantasy, and I'm here by myself. I got producer Scott in my ear, but the rest I have. I just have you guys. You guys to hang out with, and we should be good to go here. What? All right, so to start, guys, we have some notable outs right now. We have Jamison Crowder out, Chris Godwin ruled out, George Kittle, Philip Lindsay, Kenny Golladay, AJ Brown. But the big news coming out today is that Courtland Sutton is scheduled to play. That's massive news for anyone that wants to start him. But that's the tough part is whether you can actually trust him. They play Pittsburgh, and it's a super tough matchup. I'll go over some start sits, and I'll let you know where I have him ranked this week, and see if it's gonna be worth it here. Let's see. I'll go over some stuff here right now for Courtland Sutton. So I would probably this has gotten to the point where I do not want to start Courtland. I don't really want to start Jerry Jeudy. The only pass catcher in that offense I'll probably go with is going to be Noah Fant, and I'll start Marvin or Melvin Gordon if I have to. But guys, I would start guys like John Brown against Miami. I would even start Darius Slayton against Chicago. I'd start Paris Campbell against Minnie. So that is how far down I have Courtland Sutton. I do believe he's a really great wide receiver, and he's the entrenched number one in that offense. But coming off an injury like that, I'm going to try to sit him down. We're not sure if he's going to be more of a decoy or not. I would even consider starting Jerry Jeudy ahead of Courtland Sutton in that same matchup. It's tough. If you want to start your studs, you drafted Courtland Sutton to be the guy. I don't blame you at all, but right now I'll just let you know I'm going to fade Courtland Sutton. So I'm going to get this stream tweeted out, and we can get some serious questions answered here, guys. Drop any questions you have in the comments below, and I will answer every single one of them. All right, guys. Let's go. All right. DJ is my sit of the week. No, DJ is not my sit of the week. Let's go. All right, guys. Make sure to jump in, answer any questions you have. Oh, there's Easy. Drewby's in the chat. She's in there. What up, Drewski? My girlfriend's here. She has some start sit questions, let me tell you. We tried to get a kind of a guys and gals league going, but nothing ever came of that. Maybe next year. Maybe when we start cutting out leagues, Mac and I will get in the wives league pretty soon. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna jump on Twitter, get all these start sets. Let me jump on Sleeper. Here we go. Let me get on Sleeper here. So we have Brady or Newton. You know what? I would say that's a tough one. I think Newton has more upside. But I would probably start Tom Brady against Carolina. That defense is super, super weak. It's a really chance for Tom Brady to have a bounce back. Even without Chris Godwin, I still would start Tom Brady. He has a pretty safe floor. That Seattle defense should be tough. I'm streaming Seattle defense in a couple spots. I know Scotty is as well. Another question on Sleeper. Titans D or Washington D? All right, Dub Nation. I'm going Titans D. D, no question. Two flex spots on here. We have Eckler, Hines, and Herndon. I'm going Eckler and Hines. We are on YouTube. Search the Snap Fantasy Football, and I will get all these questions answered and more. Wide receiver 1 and 2 with the flex. Davante Adams versus Detroit. Robert Woods versus Philadelphia. Terry McLaurin versus Arizona. John Brown versus Miami. Sammy Watkins versus LAC. Paris Campbell versus Minnesota. That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. That's a tough choice. So obviously we're gonna go with Davante Adams, number 1, no question. He's in an absolute lock spot. He's potentially the number 1 wide receiver. This week again, he was pretty much the number 1 or number 2 last week. He's an auto start. So is Robert Woods versus Philadelphia. I'm not scared of that defense whatsoever. The real question is going to be Terry McLaurin, John Brown, Sammy Watkins, Paris Campbell. I'm going to go with Terry McLaurin. I'm going to start your stud, Terry McLaurin. Next, I do like Paris Campbell a lot, but I still want to see more from him. I'm playing him a lot of DFS lineups, but you know what? It's because of his salary. It's $4,500. Him and Deontay Johnson are going to be very much chalk this week, and you have to make the decision if it's going to be good chalk or bad chalk. So I'm playing a lot of Paris Campbell, but I would not, at the same price, I would go Terry. All right. Let's get some more. So between Deontay Johnson and Paris Campbell, I think that's a super tough choice. I would go Deontay Johnson. Let me just check out my rankings to make sure that's what I have. So I would go Deontay Johnson, absolutely. Versus Denver. I think it's a great matchup for them. I think Deontay Johnson was involved a lot, and he should be locked and loaded. I do like the upside of Paris Campbell. He looked great, but again, he hasn't shown it for an extended period of time. We're not sure if he's going to be a one-hit wonder or not, so I'm still ready to get in. We've got some guys in the YouTube chat. Sorry, I was up on Sleeper. So Bobby's asking about DeAndre Swift today. I do love DeAndre Swift. I am not thrilled about starting him yet. I still think it's the Adrian Peterson show for now. DeAndre Swift is absolutely in their plans for the future and will get more involved as they progress. I don't mind him against Green Bay at all, but I'm still going to sit Swift on my bench for now if you have a better option. And sorry, I wish I could trust Swift so far, but when he got into the end zone last week, there was not much else to say on the ground. Obviously, the attempts for Adrian Peterson were there. So, yeah, sorry, Bobby. Sit DeAndre Swift. Thanks for tuning in, man. Patrick D. Deontay Johnson or Paris. Thanks, Pat. It's going to be Deontay for me. And Easy's listening while mowing the lawn. I appreciate you, Easy. You're always there for us. I like it. We got Brad, Harry, or Parker. I thought you said Harry Potter in the flex. I would play Harry. He's and I was actually gonna. That's a tough one, Brad. That's a really tough one. Parker still questionable versus Buffalo. If I have an option, I would play Parker still. I don't trust Harry. He is in a better match. Oh man, let's see what my. Yeah, I would play Parker, but it's the jeez, man. You know what? Play N'Keal Harry, Brad. Play N'Keal Harry against Seattle. Should be a bit of a shootout. I think Seattle can exploit the New England defense. New England looked great against Miami last week, but I don't think their defense is that special. N'Keal looked good. If he didn't fumble that ball through the end zone, he had a touchdown. He looked really good. I guess fade Devontae Parker based on the injury and the matchup. I'm sitting down Devontae Parker for Russell Gage in a matchup, so I don't blame you. Devontae Parker's fairly down in the list based on the injury concerns. So thanks guys. I appreciate the questions. Yeah, that hamstring injury is definitely not great for Parker. But check to see on your waiver wire. There might be some better guys. I know Mac likes N'Keal Harry generally. I still want to see from him more first. I kind of want to see that offense is not going to throw a ton. I'd rather see someone like Russell Gage or even like Lazard. I know he's probably not available. But a player that gets at least some more guaranteed targets. Even Hunter Renfrow I would play above Devontae Parker. Guys I would play above N'Keal Harry. If Traquan Smith is available on your team or on your waiver wire, maybe pick up Traquan Smith. Even Christian Kirk, if he was dropped, they play Washington. I do think Kirk bounces back and gets more targets. If Corey Davis is still on your waiver wire, maybe play Corey Davis versus Jacksonville, even because A.J. Brown is gone and Corey Davis looked really good. So those kind of guys I would play this week. So Bobby, good luck to... I'd like the competition here. We've got two guys facing off on golf today. We got Mac and Bobby. Hopefully Bobby doesn't choke and wins the club championship. Mac is dueling him on and off the golf course this week. He's got some work to do. Mackenzie is one of the best golfers I've ever had the chance to play with. So if anyone's going to come back, I'm not going to rule out my co-host Mackenzie. Sorry, Bobby. Yeah, with the 5-shot lead, I mean, Bobby just needs to keep it in the fairway. Needs to just can't make those mistakes. Can't get those big numbers. But it should be good. We got two good pals playing off. Either way, whoever wins, I know it's gonna be respect, mutual respect each way. So I'm gonna jump back on Sleeper here, get some questions. I'm going to say to come on YouTube and I'll talk about this question. Snap Fantasy. So he needs to start 4. I'm jumping on Touche. Need to start 4. Juju, Perriman, Sutton, Kirk, Traquan, Preston Williams, Ruggs. He's got Demir Bird and Trent Taylor. Holy man. So this is tough. So Juju's obviously a start. I'd probably put Traquan Smith up in that too and Kirk. So you've got 3 starters. Now you got to choice between Preston Williams, Ruggs, and I would probably play Ruggs over Preston Williams. And I think I would go... You got Courtland Sutton. So Juju, Sutton, Kirk, Smith. Those are who I'm starting. You got to go Juju, no question about it. Courtland's bouncing back. I mean, Perriman, that offense for New York is just so bad. I'm not going to trust Perriman, even though he's kind of the last man standing. The only person I'm going to start in that offense is going to be the tight end. That's going to be Chris Herndon. He's super cheap on DraftKings. He's if you lost your blank, your George Kittle, your Blake Jarwin, that's maybe you have no other choice but to start Chris Herndon. And that's kind of the way I'm going there now. But, if you have a Noah Fant, even a Logan Thomas, Jonnu Smith, Hayden Hearst, I'm starting all those guys over Chris Herndon. San Francisco is not a good matchup. And if you could avoid that New York Jets offense, that's kind of what I'm doing. So this guy on Sleeper is really thinking about benching Chark for Hollywood and plugging in Hines. So I understand the Hines hype. I get it. You want to go with the running back that showed out big last week and has a ton of opportunity, and he's in a great matchup against Minnesota. I unfortunately would go with DJ Chark at Tennessee. I do like the Tennessee defense, but I'm not concerned about it. DJ Chark is still the number one, and he has more upside. Even though Hines put a 20 donut down last week, I do believe that DJ Chark still presents more upside. I think it's going to be the Jonathan Taylor show this week, and Hines presents a safe floor though. He still presents like a 9-point floor. Maybe a 10-point floor for Nyheim Hines. And if that's what you need, I mean, you can definitely start him. But DJ Chark presents that 20 to 30-point upside. I'm not projecting that to happen. I would have DJ Chark as around that wide receiver 12 to 16 mark for Chark this week, even in a bad matchup, because Gardner Minshew looked great. But now Hollywood is a Hollywood I would also play. No question. I would also play Hollywood Brown. And that also, I mean, that anyone in that Baltimore offense is going to be good. And maybe it's a more competitive even if Lamar Jackson sits down and doesn't play, I think Houston at least presents more of a challenge for Lamar in Baltimore. I would still have Marquis Brown between that like wide receiver 13 and 17 on the week, so pretty close to Chark. They both have similar upside. So I'm going to jump back over to our YouTube questions. Shay Thomas, thanks, buddy, for coming by. I appreciate. Hey, and you jumped in from Sleeper. So the Parker, the active. I question about kind of this Juju, Sutton, Kirk, Smith, Preston Williams. So this Parker news is pretty tough. I'm gonna fade Devontae Parker if I can help it. Now with your lineup there, I forget what I actually told you to do. Let me just jump right over. So yeah, Juju, Sutton, Kirk, and Smith. Those are kind of who I would start. Preston Williams is probably pretty close. Between him and Henry Ruggs, I would still probably go with Ruggs, just with that upside. New Orleans defense is tough, but Henry Ruggs is fast. He has a chance to break through. This Miami game, Preston does present more upside. I see what you're saying with Devontae Parker banked up. Preston Williams should have a better opportunity. And you're right. He has a decently safe floor, and we know that Fitzmagic will go to him, and Preston Williams was good when he was around and available, but I still haven't seen it this year from Preston Williams. Buffalo is a tough defense, and it could just be a stagnant offense, and especially with Devontae Parker hurt, I'm kind of staying away from the Miami offense as best as you can. Sutton is in a tough matchup as well. I think you're right. Preston Williams has a safer floor than Sutton. So if you need those like 6 to 8 points, Preston Williams. If you need that like 6 to 8 points, I would stick with Preston Williams. If you needed that 13 to 15 point game, Courtland Sutton still presents that. He's still the number one in that offense. If he's playing, you want to assume he's healthy, and he's not just a guy out there to distract from the rest. Perriman, like I said about the New York Jets offense, I'm also not going to really touch anyone. I know that Crowder's out, and it makes you want to say maybe Perriman gets the opportunity. Maybe he does. But again, that offense I think is just going to be so bad. You're going to be banking on garbage time and Perriman having the long touchdown. He wasn't involved last week. I don't think Perriman. He's almost the guy that to me doesn't get rostered, and that could bite me. I know Perriman has showed out, especially in that offense with Jameis last year, and man, yeah, no, I would still go Sutton. Bashad Perriman is a flyer if you desperately need him. He has upside because he's kind of the last one standing in that offense, but that's kind of where I'd go. The most upside, maybe it is Perriman, but I still like Sutton from where you drafted him and how big of a baller he is. That's the talent I believe in most, so that's kind of where I'm gonna go. So let's see here, guys. We've got some banter in the chat. Thanks for coming by. Shay. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We do this every single week. Usually it's Mac and I. Maybe it's going to be me and Scott. You never know how things are going to go. But I'm here to answer any really tough start-sit questions. But yeah, thanks, Shay, for coming by. If you haven't already, like the video. We've got 14 people watching now. Thanks to every one of you. If you can like the video, that would be awesome. It really helps the algorithms of YouTube. I'm here to answer every single question. And it's going to be a good week. Hopefully, now that week 2's here, we can see some trends. We got Thug Nasty in the comments. Corey Davis, Edelman, James Conner in the flex. Oh, that is very tough, Mr. Thug Nasty. If I could avoid the running backs in Pittsburgh, that's kind of what I'm going to do. James Conner's active. I think it's going to be more of a split backfield with Benny Snell. Like last week, this is kind of what we were scared about for James Conner, is that he gets hurt often. He could get hurt the first play of the game, and it's the James Conner show. He could play the whole or the Benny Snell show. He could get hurt halfway through, and then Benny Snell's in. If he's healthy the whole game, it could be kind of a split backfield with how good Benny Snell looked. I know they said they want to use a bell cow, but based on the injury history, I don't know how they can do that. So if I'm looking at Corey Davis, I think you have to go Edelman just for the safety of Edelman. Let me know if that's a half-point league, Thug. And if it's a half-point league, I'm definitely going to go Edelman. And if it's in between Edelman and Corey Davis, I think it's still going to be Edelman, even with AJ Brown hurt. So it's a half-point league. You got to go Edelman in the flex. I think he presents the most safety with some upside, touchdown upside in that Seattle offense. Thanks for coming by, Thug Nasty. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We do this every single week, and we love to interact with you. We're on snap_fantasy on Twitter. I'm Landon, I'm Lando_FF on my Twitter, and my tag's wrong, but that's all right. That's an old tag. But check me out on Twitter, LandoFF, and a flex PPR league, Goddard or Lamb. Indy Scientist, thanks for coming by, man. This is a tough one. It's between, so obviously Goddard had a massive big game this week. So Goddard's great. Lamb is still in this offense that is super high powered. I still believe the upside versus Atlanta is going to be massive. So Indy, a tight end is going to be great sometimes and provides a decent floor, but I do believe the upside still is in Lamb. Lamb is a fringe wide receiver 2 or 3. Even at a top 10 tight end for Dallas Goddard, I still would play Lamb in a half point. It's a full PPR league. Let me just change the settings. I still think that it's got to be Lamb for sure. Go Lamb with confidence against Atlanta. It's a great matchup. I think Dak Prescott's gonna throw a ton. So is Matt Ryan on the other side of that offense. Almost every pass catcher for Atlanta is gonna be great. So start line with confidence. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Again, we do this every week, guys. We love it. Thanks for bringing these questions in, and we appreciate the questions. Come by if you have more questions. No problem at all. And for my flex, Corey Davis or Darius Slayton in looks like half PPR leagues. So in a half PPR, my first instinct will go Darius Slayton, Dion. So I'm thinking it's going to be Slayton. It's a pretty good matchup. And I know Corey Davis looked pretty good, but we've seen him look good before. He has had good games in his career, even with AJ Brown hurt. I think the offense is going to run through King Henry. But so for more upside, I would go Corey Davis in a half PPR. For a safer floor at Chicago, I think Darius Slayton presents actually backwards. Floor, go Corey Davis in half PPR. For the ceiling, go Darius Slayton. It's in a tougher matchup against Chicago where Corey Davis plays Jacksonville. That secondary is really bad. So they're super close in the rankings between kind of that wide receiver 2-3. I think the upside with Corey Davis being around wide receiver 28 in the ranks and Darius Slayton being around wide receiver 32. So it's super close. Corey Davis, maybe he has another good game, and maybe Corey Davis is that Devontae Parker of last year where he takes so long to break out. So if you're behind in the matchup, I would go Slayton. If you're ahead in the matchup and need a safe floor, go Corey Davis. Dion, thanks for coming by. Drop a sub, drop a like, and we appreciate you. That's it for questions in the chat. Let me jump back over to Sleeper. I've got all right, I've got a question here of Marquis Brown or Marvin Jones. I'll be on YouTube answering your question. All right, so we've got Marquis Brown or Marvin Jones Jr. So Marquis Brown presents a ton of upside, and Marvin Jones Jr. is kind of that last available option in that offense. It seemed like Marvin Jones didn't really get the bump. The guy that got the bump from Kenny Galladay's absence was going to be Quintez Cephas. So I would play Marquis Brown in that matchup against Houston. It should be a great shootout where Marvin Jones Jr. will have a safe floor. He's going to be that guy that you're happy you drafted, but he's that fringe guy that you is a safety star where Marquis Brown has a ton of upside. So thanks, Dion. You're very welcome for the input. We got Jacob Bart on YouTube asking Deontay Johnson, Corey Davis, or Malcolm Brown in a half PPR. That's a great question, Jacob. That's an awesome question. I think it's really tough because Malcolm Brown, had a ton of those red zone high value looks, and there's no reason why we don't expect that again, right? But I do believe Cam Akers will get more and more involved. I do expect that Jared Goff throws more touchdowns. It's unrealistic for him to throw 0 and for Malcolm Brown to just pound it in 3 more times. So against Philadelphia, they have a pretty good rush defense, but you're playing Malcolm Brown for those touchdowns. And touchdowns are the hardest thing to predict in fantasy football. So based on the floor and the ceiling, I think you got to go Deontay Johnson in that matchup. Corey Davis is a guy that I talked about earlier that provides a fairly safe floor in his matchup. So between Corey Davis and Deontay Johnson, I still believe that Corey Davis has more upside. He was almost unlucky to get in the end zone last week. So I would go Deontay Johnson over everyone. And then between Corey Davis and Malcolm Brown, I'd probably go the pass catcher in any half PPR league. Malcolm Brown is great, but I don't expect him to get those touchdowns again. If he does, yeah, you might regret it, and it's tough, but there's no reason that Corey Davis or Deontay can score those touchdowns. They're gonna get the high value looks. Malcolm Brown, Goff's gonna throw the touchdowns. There's got to be one for Kupp and one for Woods. They both got paid. My bold prediction is that Malcolm Brown does not get in the end zone. If he doesn't, he's only gonna get maybe 64 yards on the ground. So that's not enough to sustain you and to start and to win you a matchup. So between those pass catchers in a half PPR league, you got to go with Deontay Johnson. Thanks for the question, Jacob. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. We are grinding here every single week. I don't know how you found us, but we are here grinding and we answer every single question. Thank you so much, Jacob. Yeah, awesome. Subscribe to the channel. We love you guys. What's that, Scotty? Yeah, we're gonna be alive till 1 o'clock. We're alive for another hour here. And you know what? Pretty soon, in the next half hour or so, I'm gonna be doing all my start sits myself. So there's gonna be some tough decisions. Maybe everyone watching, all 15 of you, can help me make my decisions. And I can't be losing fantasy matchups because I'm helping all of y'all. So thanks for coming by. If you have more questions, tell your friends. Come in the chat. We had some good banter going on earlier, and hopefully we have some more. I didn't answer Mackenzie Tout's question. He has James White or Brandon Cooks in the flex. That is gross. I would go James White. Thanks, Mac, for setting the Scotty Fish lineup. We needed that. He's ready to rock. Mac is in the game. He's ready to play some good golf today. I'll go James White if between Brandon Cooks. I'm going to fade Brandon Cooks. I want to see Brandon Cooks be a good option in that offense. Against Baltimore this week, it's going to be tough no matter what. I do believe in the talent of Brandon Cooks. I just want him to stay healthy and to show that he can earn those targets. But for now, it's going to be Will Fuller. All systems go, and start Fuller if you have him. I don't see any Will Fuller questions. So there's no question that Fuller is a start even in a tough matchup against Baltimore. LWA, Mostert or Ronald Jones full PPR? Really good question, LWA. Thanks for stopping by. This one is easy to me, and I'm going Raheem Mostert. I know a lot of people on Twitter. If you're in on fantasy Twitter, people love Ronald Jones. I think this week is the week against Carolina. I understand. I do think that Leonard Fournette is going to get in more than he did last week. He didn't have any time to get used to that offense. Leonard Fournette will get some high-value goal line looks. Bold prediction, he gets in the end zone this year, and fantasy Twitter blows up. Raheem Mostert is in a great matchup. They don't have anyone left in that offense. It's super tough. Brandon Ayuk's going to be a fun guy to watch. I'm not starting Brandon Ayuk, but he's still a guy that I really like, and I believe in the talent. And Shanahan reached for him in the draft, and he was his guy. I'm holding him in all formats, but I'm not starting him. But Raheem Mostert is going to be a guy that looked good last week. Obviously caught that big touchdown. I know it's a full PPR. I think Mostert becomes a pass catcher. I do think Tevin Coleman's more involved this week. Last week there was those fires in California, and Tevin has that sickle cell trait, so he did not play much. He was active but didn't play much. But I do think Raheem gets most of the work. I would say for sure 65% of the work in San Francisco. And it's a good matchup, so you got to start Raheem Mostert. Thanks for the question, LWA. So get those likes up. Like the video if you haven't already. We're here every single week answering your questions. And I'm still here for another hour answering all of your start sit questions. I get to every single one of them. And subscribe to the channel. We grind every single week. I've been talking like crazy. I need a sip of coffee. All right, guys. Sean Thames. Yo, Sean Thames. Thanks for coming by. I appreciate you, my friend. He's a good friend of mine, and I'm trying to get, I'm trying to get Miles Sanders off of him. So if you want to trade me Miles Sanders, please do that, Mr. Sean Thames. That might be a brother. I don't know. I can't keep track of all my leagues. All right, we have Ingram or Connor. This is super tough, Chase. Ingram really disappointed last week. He is He's a guy that a lot of, I liked, even though I liked the talent of J.K. Dobbins, I still liked Mark Ingram early in the season. We thought he was going to get those high value red zone looks, but it was actually J.K. Dobbins. So it kind of threw me for a loop. James Conner, because of his injury history, I'm fading Conner as best I can. We don't know if he's going to play a quarter, a half, a snap. So, and because how good Benny Snell played last week, it very well could be more of a 50-50 split, or more so than you like. I know Pittsburgh is used to that bell cow role, and it's possible that James Conner is the bell cow. And if he is for that full game, it's going to be Conner. That's the answer to the question if Ingram or if Conner's the full-time bell cow. But I'm not going to rely on that. So I'm going to rely on Mark Ingram this week to get a bounce back week. I'm playing him in a couple spots in DFS. Because he has such a bad week, I don't think anyone's playing him. So for a floor play, you got to go Ingram. I think Ingram gets to 80 yards. And if he doesn't get in the end zone, that's going to be fine. That could be easily better than Conner, where I'll project 80 yards and a touchdown from Mark Ingram Chase. And he's going to be back to his normal self for that Baltimore offense. It should be a way better matchup against Houston. Hopefully Lamar Jackson is in the game the whole game, and they're not just running out the clock. So we're hoping for a more competitive game, and we're hoping Mark Ingram gets in there. I would play Mark Ingram in that matchup. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Thanks a ton, guys. We got 12 likes, 17 watching now. I love you guys. Appreciate it. We got Trevor R. So, Chase had a follow-up. Lat Murray going to golf this week, considering throwing him in instead of Ingram. Hey, man, Lat Murray got, I think, 15 attempts last week. That's not a bad little play. I'm not counting on that. It's funny, I had a dream last night. It's just coming to me that Alvin Kamara scored 2 touchdowns again. It just came to me. I don't know if that'll happen. Maybe Lat Murray will get that. That would be a bold play. I like the balls on you, Chase, and I think that would be an interesting play. But I think Lat Murray in a good matchup has a ton of upside. So if you go with your gut, you always got to go with your gut. And if you have a good feeling about Lat Murray, go ahead. So Zach Moss over Conner. A lot of James Conner questions today, and it all depends on the health of James Conner. This is a really tough one because Zach Moss, he got in the end zone last week, but besides that, he didn't do a lot. I don't expect him to get another touchdown this week. So I would, in that spot, man, they play Miami though. They're very close in the rankings, Trevor. Super tough. It's a split with Singletary. I think Singletary's a very fine start this week. Maybe Zach Moss is the real deal. Zach Moss still has a safer floor than Conner. If I can sit down Conner, I'm going to do that. I think he came back from his injury a little too quick. He might not. He's going to be on a snap count as it is. I don't see him being the full-time bell cow. So if you need some floor, I would go Zach Moss. But thanks for the questions. Subscribe to the channel. We do this every week. I'm on for another hour, guys. Keep it up. Larry Kane in the chats. What up, Larry? Big fan of the show. He's a frequent commenter, and I will get to every one of your questions. Thomas Wilson asked, so what do you do about Sutton? Sorry, missed your thoughts. Man, I know, Thomas. Thanks for coming by. Subscribe to the channel. Sutton is a guy I'm going to try to fade this week, Tom. He's a guy that I think he could have rushed back from his injury. In that same matchup, I would start Jerry Jeudy over Sutton. They're playing Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh could have the best defense in the league this year. It's super tough. For reference, Tom, I would play guys like Paris Campbell, John Brown, Deontay Johnson, CeeDee Lamb, Edelman, Keenan Allen, even over a guy like Courtland Sutton this week. Now, if you have other plays like Brandon Cooks or Scotty Miller, Curtis Samuel, Larry Fitz, I would play Sutton over those guys. Sutton is still a guy that, you hope that he is healthy and he's still a stud and that alpha in that offense. So you're really hoping for him to have a lot of production on limited work. If he gets, say, 7 targets, 5 receptions for 56 yards and a touchdown. That's what you're going to be happy with Courtland Sutton in that bad matchup. If he gets peppered this week, that's what I want to see first. I want to see Courtland Sutton be himself, finish the game healthy, not banged up, and then it's all systems go for Courtland Sutton. So sit Courtland Sutton if you can help it, but if you desperately need him and you need that upside and you think he balls out this week, I mean, start your studs. It's that kind of week. So Larry Kane, he's got Devin Singletary or James Robinson in the flex. So James Robinson looked pretty good last week. They play a pretty tough defense in Tennessee, but I think Singletary has a good game. I think Singletary bounces back and is the carry leader over Zack Moss. So I would play Singletary in that matchup against Miami. It very well could be a shootout. It could be a game where they just control the clock and run. I'm actually playing Miami in some DFS lineups as my cheap defense. So so I have kind of the opposite of that script, but you never know what happens. Thanks, Charlie, for coming by. I didn't see, maybe I answered your question earlier, but so Trevor R at Hunt and Chubb, so I have the lead. So there we go. Yeah, if you put up a 40 banger with those two guys or whatever format, 50 banger with those, you're laughing. So you have full availability. It might not matter who you start, Trevor. So thanks for coming by. Subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you. We're here every time. I love all the questions. You guys are awesome. This has been awesome. Even by myself, even talking to you guys in the camera by myself, I feel like you guys are with me. So thanks, Chase, for liking and subscribing. Love it. This is awesome. We got lots more questions. Campbell, Sutton, Marquis Brown, Perriman, Lamb. So Paris Campbell is a guy that really showed out this past week. I technically have Paris Campbell. I have him ahead of Sutton this week. Maybe not Paris. I have Paris Campbell ahead of Sutton. So that's kind of the direction I would go. Marquis Brown for sure. So it would go Campbell or Marquis Brown, Campbell, even Lamb, Sutton, Perriman in my rankings here. Zach Moss or upside Scotty Miller this week. Goddard. Now I know a lot of people love Scotty Miller and it's a really good matchup against Carolina. I'm not playing Scotty Miller anywhere. I could be bitten there. It seemed like Tom Brady really liked Scotty Miller last week. I agree he is the upside play. And so that's where I would say both have kind of similar upside. They need to get in the end zone to kind of produce for your fantasy team. Because I still like Singletary to get a floor play with the yards. And Zach Moss is going to get those. If he needs to get in the end zone to produce. And Scotty Miller needs to get 9 targets to produce from Tom Brady. I think Zach Moss has a better chance to get in the end zone, where Scotty Miller has a chance to, he could go off for over 100 yards. I'm not projecting that, but I get the fact that Scotty Miller is a popular option. I just don't really have a vibe on Scotty Miller. I'm going to have to see it. It wouldn't be surprised if he gets 10, 11 targets. So you're right. Upside play Scotty. Maybe floor, similar upside play Zach Moss. So good question, Chase. Thanks for subscribing. Hopefully we see you every week. We got Kevin in the chats here. Thanks again for the last minute advice. You're very welcome, Kevin. I think I saw you here last week. So hey guys, and I love that you're answering questions in the chat. Keep that up. We like the banter between everyone. I'll see everything. Answer questions, ask questions, do it all. Hang out with me. I'm just here doing it, grinding for you guys. So Kevin, so I sat Tyler Higbee for Chris Herndon upside. Hope it pays off based on the volume. Hey man, that is a ballsy play. I would play Higbee this week, but I'm playing Herndon in a ton of DFS lineups, Kev. So if Herndon goes off, if Herndon goes off, I'm gonna be sky high jumping to the moon, man. So You and me, if we're riding Herndon, it's going to be a risky ride. It's a bad offense. It's not a good situation. I would say do not watch the game, Kevin. I would say if you're playing that, game with Chris Herndon, do not watch the game, because last year Chris Herndon was a guy that we loved all season long, and he just did not do anything. I must have added Chris Herndon 3 or 4 times and dropped him 3 or 4 times. So I love the Chris Herndon play. If he goes off, message me on Twitter. I'm LandoFF on Twitter, and we will be jumping for joy. So Shaquan Alexander, my friend, Texans D or Jacksonville D or Vikings D versus Indy. I am gonna go, Texans versus Vikings. I'm going Texans, man. That came through on Sleeper. Thanks for coming by. Scotty's there grinding on Sleeper, making sure we have everything. So let's go Titans D versus Jacksonville. I think it's a great matchup. Hey man, Gardner Minshew looked great, but we want to make sure Gardner Minshew keeps throwing the ball. And when you're starting defenses, it doesn't matter if they score 3 points or a shutout or 7 points. No defense will throw a shutout. Maybe Pittsburgh, but you want that Jacksonville offense passing the ball. You want them coming from behind, and then Gardner Minshew taking sacks, throwing interceptions. They've got a great pass rush. Jacksonville offensive line is better than last year, but I still think that Gardner Minshew can come back down to earth. He looked great last week. Maybe he is great, but I'm still going Texans D. Thanks for coming by, Shaquan Alexander, and don't forget to subscribe before you leave, and stay in the chat. We love hanging out. I'm here grinding with you guys. If you have a better question or a different question on your players, your flex play, come by and I will answer any of that. So I got Mike on the YouTube chat asking about Lamb or Corey Davis. And that's a really good question. I do love the matchup versus Atlanta for CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb looked really, really good to me last week. If you watched that game, when he caught the ball and did that little stutter step, that little stutter, dragged his toe to throw off the defenders, he looked natural with the ball in his hands. And that's the kind of guy I want on my fantasy team. So they're really close in the lineup, like almost back to back. Corey Davis looked good last week, and maybe he is that Devontae Parker guy that breaks out after his 4th year in the league, the guy that went top 10 in the NFL draft and is the real deal, especially with A.J. Brown out this week. But I know that CeeDee Lamb was my favorite prospect of the week, or of this rookie class. He looked like the real deal for me. I'd rather not start Corey Davis and be like, we knew this guy was trash. You started and be like, why did I start Corey Davis? Why would I do that? We knew he wasn't that good. He's had big games before. He's had games where he has showed out before, but to do it consistently, that is not Corey Davis's MO. I'm going to go CeeDee Lamb because of the over-under, that high over-under versus Atlanta. Both defenses are the worst. If you're playing DFS and you can jam in Gallup, Lamb, Prescott, and then run it back with a guy like Russell Gage, do that. That's going to be a fun matchup. It's going to be a fun game to watch. And I would go CeeDee Lamb, Mike. Thanks for the question. If you have more questions, feel free to ask them. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm here grinding every single week. Like the video if you haven't already. And we got more stuff coming in. Non-PPR, Chark or Ingram. So it's a non-PPR standard league. I would still go Chark, Chase. I would still go Chark. I like Chark this week. There's no question. He didn't have the targets we hoped he would last week, and Ingram should have the attempts. Ingram has a safe floor for me still this week, but Chark still presents an upside. All right, Tyler. Tyler has a question. He is struggling, and that's why you're here. Thanks for coming by, Tyler. Deciding which matchup is more ideal: Watson versus Baltimore or Ryan versus Dallas. That's a tough one, because you know what? You don't want to start. You probably drafted Watson early, and to decide between Watson or you picked up Ryan a few rounds later. We hope that Deshaun Watson puts up a fight against Baltimore. That's what we That's what we want, but it's very possible that Baltimore just runs them out of town again. And Deshaun Watson, his offensive line did not protect him last week. He tried to do it all versus Kansas City. Kansas City's defense isn't that good. So I would go Matt Ryan. Like I said earlier, that matchup against Dallas should be a shootout. Julio Jones is going to eat. Calvin Ridley is going to eat. Russell Gage is going to eat. And maybe we'll see something from Hayden Hearst this week. So I would play Matt Ryan. They're very similar, and it's possible that Deshaun Watson is just an absolute baller, but I still don't think his upside is very similar to what Matt Ryan's is, and he has a shootout matchup versus Dallas versus a grind and really claw back. Deshaun Watson got you some garbage time touchdowns last week. He could do it again this week, but I would play Matt Ryan for a safer floor and a similar ceiling as well. So thanks for the questions, Tyler. Subscribe to the channel. I know you guys, I say this all the time, but it really means the world to subscribe. We have a subscriber goal of 300. It would be awesome to get that today. Tell your friends, have them come by. Stay in the chat. We love the comments. We got 21 watching now. All right, guys, we got some Len Williams, got Chark, Anthony Miller, James Robinson, or John Brown in the flex. Len, that's a really good question. I like DJ Chark this week. He's a very popular question to have. He didn't get those targets last week, but I do think he will get it this week. He's that entrenched number one in that offense. In Tennessee, I know it's not a great matchup, but I do think Chark will eat. He should be the target leader. He's going to be the guy getting the work. James Robinson looked great, but I still don't. I'd rather have the pass catcher in that offense. Anthony Miller did not play a lot of snaps, but when he did get the looks, he looked great. Anthony Miller is a guy that I'm holding in a lot of leagues. I think he presents a ton of upside. I woke up this morning to news about Allen Robinson. I thought for some reason he got traded, and Anthony Miller was the number one in that offense, and that would have been a ton of fun to answer questions about Anthony Miller. But I would play DJ Chark in the flex. If I'm going to give you a little more context for that, let me just go over to my wide receiver rankings here. I would go Chark, and then let me just jump over here. I know this is not so I would go Chark, then I would go John Brown, then Anthony Miller. So those are the ones I would go with. James Robinson is right in between, probably right behind everyone. So I'd go the wide receivers first. So more questions. Trevor R is back. What's up, buddy? Thanks for coming back. He's got Melvin Gordon or Moss. And pick two between Chark, Gallup, or Fuller. Oh, these are all tough. Melvin Gordon plays a really tough matchup against Pittsburgh. I would still play Melvin Gordon over Moss. But at that point, you are still hoping for Melvin Gordon to get in the end zone. That's a super tough matchup. And between Chark and Gallup, we haven't had a Gallup question this week, and Gallup is a guy I really like to really bounce back and have a game. Thank you for subscribing, Len. Thanks, and you're welcome for the response. We're here every single week, Len. We appreciate it. We love the enthusiasm. People are hyped up for fantasy football this year. And so for that question, guys, and thanks for everyone that's watching. We have 25 people watching this week. Like the video if you haven't already. I will get to every single question if you just hang out for a bit, and I will answer every single one and talk you through why I think that. So between Gallup and Chark, I'm still going to play Chark, but I do believe that Gallup is very close to being a really sneaky guy this week. I love Gallup this week. I do believe he presents a safer floor than Chark. At Chark, you might be hoping for 6 targets, 5 receptions, and a touchdown, where Gallup could easily get 10 targets, 8 receptions, and he might get in the end zone, but that's not what we need from a guy like Gallup to get those kind of looks. And Fuller is great as well. Between Gallup and Fuller, I would go with I would probably go with Fuller, I think. But very similar to why you... no, I would go Gallup. I would go Gallup over Fuller. Fuller is great. He should get those targets, but again, a bad matchup. So it would go Chark, Gallup, Fuller, and those in that order for me. Again, I think Fuller is an absolute baller and should get that, is the number one in that offense. He's going to get the similar amount of targets to Gallup. As long as he doesn't get hurt, and we hope he doesn't, he's going to be a good season long guy that's looking at like a 30% target share for Houston. Lots of questions coming in. I'm going to answer every single one, guys. Hang tight. Like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We have Josh Hartnett asking James Conner or Benny Snell. And that is super, super difficult, Josh. I would still probably go with the starter, and that's James Conner. It's really, really tough between those guys because Conner could be out the first play of the game, and he could be just someone that really lets you down, and that's not what you want to see. If they're both healthy, it could be a 50-50 split, and you want to think that Conner, being their quote-unquote bell cow, will get the high value the runs in the end zone. He should get more work if they're both healthy. Denver's a very susceptible defense. Now, Benny Snell might present a better floor because we know he's healthy. So if you need a floor play, I mean, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel great to start Benny Snell, even though he's not the starter. But we know he's healthy, and James Conner could get hurt again. If you bank on him getting hurt, I'm fading both. I've got them both around like running back 30 to 35 in this week. James Conner is at running back 30 for me, so they're not high up on my rankings. But go James Conner, and if he's the bell cow and the lead back and he stays healthy, he's a game winner for you, Josh. But he presents so much risk, so you have to go in there knowing you could get a 2-point performance from him. But especially if you're behind in the matchup, if your opponent had Hunt or Odell in your lineup, you kind of got to go James for the upside. So thanks for coming by, Josh. Subscribe, please. Tommy Bozio, he's got a question. Keenan Allen, James Conner, or Julian Edelman in a flex spot. I'm gonna go with Keenan Allen in that matchup. I think Keenan should be able to bounce back this week. I do like Edelman, but the pass attempts for Cam Newton is not going to be super relied upon. Now, Julian is a baller. He's a guy that just will do a lot with a little, but I think Keenan Allen bounces back. The game script for the Chargers should be good against Kansas City. They should be in a shootout type of game. The Kansas City defense isn't super great, but Tyrod Taylor just really needs to step up and target his number one wide receiver. You can't bail out on Keenan Allen quite yet. You got to go Keenan Allen, Tommy. Thanks for the question. Hang out in the chat, hang out in the comments and like and subscribe, my friend. You're welcome, Mike Oates. You're welcome, Len. Let's get it. We've got a question from Bazim. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Allen or Watson in a half PPR. Those are two quarterbacks. We have Josh Allen and Watson. I would probably go with Watson in that matchup. Let me just confirm here. Deshaun Watson. Josh Allen is a baller. He's going to get more yards on the ground. We hope that it's going to be a bit of a shootout in Miami, but it could be just a run and gun. So I mean, that's why I'm going with a guy like Zach Moss and Singletary. But you know what? I would say go Allen. He plays Miami. It should be a better matchup. They're close though. I mean, Josh Allen could be a top 5 quarterback this week, where Deshaun Watson's closer to 10. But you have two really good quarterbacks this week, in a PPR. I'm in on the chat. I can see all of these questions here. So we are just making our way down the list. So I go, Bazim, I'd go Allen over Watson in a PPR league. So Deontay Johnson or Lamb. Those are two really good wide receivers. That Dallas Atlanta game should be an absolute shootout, where Deontay is kind of the he's kind of the guy of the week that people just love, and you got him off waivers, and that's awesome, and I'm thrilled for you. I'm playing him in DFS, but I would go CeeDee Lamb just because of that high over-under in that game. There's less targets in Pittsburgh, but there's still James Washington and Juju being the target hogs, where CD also has two other guys there too. So, but they're back-to-back in my lineup. I don't think you can make a really bad decision. I'm playing more Deontay Johnson in DFS. So if, my friend, you want to be on the side of me, TS, and are pumped up for Deontay Johnson, you start him. But my rankings say CeeDee Lamb. So thanks for the question, TS. Hit that subscribe button. We love you. We love answering all these questions. So Amir, who should I play? My running back 2 and flexed. He got Todd Gurley, Mostert, and Jonathan Taylor. Currently benching Gurley. Yeah, I would play. Jonathan Taylor's a must start this week, Amir. That's a really good matchup. I would also play Mostert as well. So you got it right, man. That Gurley game. So let me just double check my rankings between Mostert and Gurley. The thing with Mostert, I do think that Tevin Coleman's going to get more work this week than he did last week. We got 31 people in on here. I can answer every one of your questions. Thank you so much for coming in. We do this for you guys. We do this for the grind. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. This is actually the first Todd Gurley question I had. Because of that matchup, I do think Todd Gurley could get some passing work. Let me just see if you mentioned if it was a PPR league. Amir, if you are still in the thing, let me know if it's a PPR. In a half PPR league, I would go Todd Gurley. Just because of the shootout narrative, I think Gurley gets in the end zone. With Raheem Mostert, I do think that Tevin Coleman gets a little bit more work. It'll be more of a committee backfield, even though it's a really good matchup against the Jets. But honestly, man, they're pretty much back to back in my rankings, so you can't really go wrong. But based on the high over-under in that Dallas game, that's why I would go Gurley. We're hoping that Atlanta scores about 4 or 5 touchdowns, and Dallas scores about 4 or 5 or 6 touchdowns. That's kind of what we're hoping for in that matchup. Hopefully it lives up to those expectations. So thanks, Amir. I'll come back to confirm. So in a half PPR, that's what I would do. In a standard league, it's probably pretty close. Maybe slight lean for Raheem Mostert. So we are in here. Let me go to Bazim again. DJ Moore, Edelman, or Fant, or Hines flex. Still start DJ Moore, my friend. Start DJ Moore. He's going to be a good play. Do not overreact to week 1. You got to still start your studs. DJ Moore is one of the best talents in the NFL at the quarterback position. And then I would go probably Hines, Edelman, Fant. I don't want to start at tight end if I can. Denver has a really tough matchup as it is. So I'll play Fant in my tight end spot, but I'm not going to play him in my flex position. So we've got Sutton or Jerry Jeudy, man. 14-team league. It is limited. Garrett, great question. Bazim, actually, guys, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to reach our goal for 300 subscribers. I know it's not a lot, but it's a little goals for us to get there. Maybe next week it'll be 400. You guys are awesome. You coming in, answering questions. We love all these questions. So Garrett, I would go Jeudy if it's a straight up question. And it's a 14-team league, so you need a floor play. This is a tough question, but Jeudy has a safer floor because he's healthy, and I think he's a really good wide receiver. So I would go Jeudy over Sutton for the floor. Obviously, Sutton will have his higher ceiling because he's a great wide receiver. If he's fully healthy, it's Sutton. But because we're really not too sure, we haven't seen it yet this year, that's why I go Jeudy, Garrett. So 14-team league, options are limited, I get that. So sometimes you need just a floor, and that's why you go with Jeudy. So Chase has a question, last one, Mark Ingram or McLaurin. I would go McLaurin in that matchup. Hines or Gurley, Bazim, I'd go Todd Gurley. Ashton is asking Fuller or Eckler at flex, half PPR. That one is really tough for me. I'm willing to give Eckler a chance. But let me just check my rankings to make sure that's where I would go. Fuller presents upside as well, but it's just so Eckler definitely for the safe floor. But I would go Eckler. Stick with Eckler, Ashton. It's a half PPR league. That's what I would do. Eckler's right around a fringe running back 1 this week, and Fuller is a fringe wide receiver 2 in a tough matchup. So thanks for the question, Ashton. Subscribe to the channel. We got Edris here asking Carson or Taylor for running back 2 and Thielen Woods for wide receiver 2. These are some tough questions, but they're good problems to have because you have 2 really good running backs there this week. Between Taylor or Carson, straight up is a really tough one. We know Chris Carson will get all the work in that backfield. I mean, Hyde was around a little bit. I would probably go Taylor. I think Taylor's in a really good matchup. That Minnesota defense is super bad. Even though Carson had 3 touchdowns last week, it's hard to sit a guy like that. But I would go Taylor this week. I would go Taylor. It's really tough, but that's kind of what I would do. Absolutely, man. Thanks for that question. Oh, Ridley or Woods? That's also really tough. Ridley is in that game that's going to shoot out. It's a high over-under. Where Woods just got paid. I'm not sure where the Rams are finding all their money. I can't believe they're paying another guy in that matchup. But I would go with Calvin Ridley in that. Ridley has top 10 potential, no question, where Robert Woods is a top 13 guy, top 12 guy. So they're super close in the matchup. Last week, Calvin Ridley had a ton of touchdowns. Robert Woods had none. Stick with a hot hand. Atlanta has a great matchup. So I would go Ridley over Woods, but it's close, man. It's really close. Thanks for coming in, guys. Subscribe if you haven't. We got 30 people watching. I'm going rapid fire. I'm getting all these questions answered. We're at 30 more minutes. And if you guys keep having questions for these 4 o'clock games, I'm going to keep on answering questions. So keep it up. We have a ton of questions. This is awesome. Slayton or Miller, half PPR, jump, Judy. I would go with Slayton in that matchup. Raymond, Djax, Parker, or Corey Davis. Really tough. I would go Corey Davis over those guys. Standard league. I would go Davis, Djax, and Parker because Parker is injured. That's where I have the struggles with. Parker in every other condition is an auto start, but because he's hurt against Buffalo in a tough matchup, I would go Davis, Djax, and Parker. Djax always presents upside. So if you need a floor play, it's Davis. If you need an upside play, it's Djax. Thanks for the question, Raymond. Subscribe to the channel. Edris, half PPR. You got the answer. You got it. Darren, Hopkins, Fuller, or Courtland Sutton? Darren, great question. I would go Fuller over Courtland Sutton. Wait till Courtland Sutton gets back healthy. That's why I would go Will Fuller. Even they're both in tough matchups, so that's why you go Will Fuller. Thanks for the question, Darren. Keep on coming in. I'll be answering and talking to you guys very shortly to keep it up. We got Deshaun Watson or Tannehill, Ravi. I would go Deshaun Watson even in a tough matchup. You got to go with your stud. We're hoping, Ravi, that Ravens game is going to be high scoring. Deshaun Watson will get garbage time touchdowns. Maybe the Ravens jump into a massive lead again, that RG3 comes in and gives Deshaun Watson more opportunities. Amir, it's a PPR league. I think he got that question anyways. Thanks, guys. Sleek coming in with it. We got PPR, pick 2. Melvin Gordon, Devin Singletary, Latavius Murray, Robbie Anderson. Melvin Gordon's in a really bad matchup, but I think he still gets most of the work. We're hoping Melvin gets in the end zone. I think the over-under for Melvin Gordon on yards would be closer to 65. That's not great, and if he doesn't get in the end zone, it's tough. I would still go Melvin Gordon, and I would still go Devin Singletary. Robbie Anderson had a really good catch last week, but besides that long one, he didn't do too much. So, the close one for me here is going to be Latavius Murray. He had, I think, 15 attempts last week's league, and if he gets in the end zone or takes one to the house, that's where it pays off. It's still going to be the Alvin Kamara show around the end zone, around the goal line. Kamara's going to get those high value touches. He just has a nose for the end zone. So Latavius isn't going to get those really good looks. So I would still stick with your running backs in Melvin and Devin Singletary. Robbie Anderson's a flyer play. If you're behind in the matchup and you got to start Robbie, you can do that. So Ramiz, thanks for coming by, guys. Subscribe to the channel, like this video. We have 21 likes, guys. You guys are killing it. I love it. I'm working hard to answer every single question you have. Ramiz asks, Marvin Jones or Deontay Johnson? I feel like I've answered this one already, but I will answer it again. If I go Deontay Johnson, I really like him this week. There's no question about I like Deontay Johnson. I do think Marvin Jones has a safer floor than Deontay because he is the most entrenched wide receiver in that offense for Detroit. I would go Marvin Jones Jr. for the floor and Deontay Johnson for the ceiling. We're hoping Deontay gets in the end zone, but we're not sure about it. So go Marvin Jones in that matchup. I am hoping that Deontay has a big game, but I would rely on Marvin Jones even more. So thanks, guys, for coming. We're answering every single one. We aren't spamming you. We are answering every single question. We have this going here. Thanks, Sleek, so much for coming by. We got Fant or Goddard. That's a tough one. I'd probably go Fant in a tough matchup. Goddard had a big game, but he's still technically the number 2 in that offense or for their tight end position. But they're close. I would say Goddard for the. You know what? I'm take that back. Bazim, go Goddard in that matchup. I really liked what I saw from Fant, and I could see him being a top 10 tight end this week, no question. But go Goddard. I mean, it's hard to go away from a guy that had a massive week last week like that. All right, D Hurt Locker, thanks for coming by, guys. Subscribe to the channel. We are almost there. Scotty, can I get a count on how many subscribers we are at? Because I'm asking every second if you guys can subscribe. We are on 270 or 281 subscribers, Scotty. So we are 20 away from getting 300. We're gonna get our goal of 300 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for coming by. D Hurt Locker, you need a flex spot. I feel you got Moss, McKinnon, Kelly, Judy, or Kirk. That's tough. McKinnon is out of the question for me. Kelly had a really good matchup last week, but he got those touchdowns. I think Eckler bounces back, so I'm going to stay away from Kelly as well. Keep Kelly on your team, though. Kelly's a great talent. I really like him, and if he sees a lot more work, then I'd be really concerned about Austin Eckler this year. So between that, it's going to be Judy or Kirk for me. I would go those two options, and let me see. It's a PPR league, so even better reason to go with a wide receiver option for that for your flex spot. So with Courtland Sutton banged up, it leans me towards going Jerry Jeudy. I do think Kirk has a bounce back game. You probably took Kirk as a late round guy, hoping that he would be a really good number 2 and at least have a relationship with Kyler Murray. In that matchup, we didn't see it week 1. I know Kirk has a good matchup against Washington, but I'll go Jerry Jeudy in a tough matchup at Pittsburgh. So it's between Jerry Jeudy and Moss. We're gonna get that one going just to make sure that you should start Jerry Jeudy or Zach Moss. And Moss is going to be good against Miami. You're hoping for a touchdown again out of Zach Moss, and really for Buffalo to beat them by a lot, and that Zach Moss gets some garbage time work, a lot of carries. So I would say a floor play in your flex, her locker, is going to be Moss, where the ceiling is going to be higher for Jerry Jeudy. I think Moss would be closer to a running back 28 to 30 on the week, where Jerry Jeudy is closer to a wide receiver 30-38 for the week. So that's kind of where I would go there. Lots of questions here. I'm going to get to every single one of you guys. Subscribe to the channel. We are 20 away from reaching our 300. Tell your friends. Go on Sleeper. I love the fact that there's so many people watching. We have 23 likes, 21 people watching right now. So you guys are part of our Snap community. We have a podcast. We have a YouTube channel. We interact with everyone in our community. So we answer questions every single week on here and on Instagram. DM us. We're snap_fantasy on our on Instagram as well. Mackenzie's getting that looking nice and good, and our thumbnails are looking fly. So let me get this. We got Kavan in here asking, is a 10-team standard league. Pick one. Sutton, Gibson, Rager, Ruggs for the flex spot. That is tough. I would go Gibson for your flex spot there. Really good options. You have a lot of really good young talent there, Kavan there. But I would go Gibson, even though it's a standard league, so running back has more value there. Sutton, I'm sitting Sutton down if I can help it. We don't know how healthy he is. We hope he's healthy. And I think Sutton presents a ton of upside. So does your Ruggs and Rager. But Antonio Gibson against Arizona should have a really good matchup. So go Gibson in your flex spot. Thank you for the question. Thanks, guys. Sleek, you'll be here weekly. We love you, man. I can't wait for you to come by every single week. He's got another question. We have Hearst or Goddard. I mean, that Hearst is in that giant over-under game, but I still think Goddard is the play here. I want to see Hearst get more targets. He ran a lot of routes. He ran the most routes in the NFL last week for the tight end position. So Hayden Hearst, we think he's going to get a lot of targets. We just haven't seen it yet. We saw Russell Gage get all those targets that we were hoping Hayden Hearst would get. So as the relationship with Matt Ryan gets better, Hearst will be a more viable option. And in a game like this, I could see Hearst getting in the end zone. But Goddard is a really good talent against the Rams. Again, it's going to be a really good matchup. So I would play Goddard, but it's close, man. They're kind of back to back in my ranks here. They're close to 9 and 10 for this week, just because Hearst is in that big game against Dallas. So. But yeah, thanks, Leek. Thank you for liking and subscribing, man. I know you're gonna be here next week, and hopefully my advice pays off to you. Yeah, and Bazim, no problem. I hope you're still here. Cooper Kupp is a good start in a PPR league, especially in a PPR league. He's a locks and loaded guy. He has a good relationship with Jared Goff. No question from my mind in that Cooper Kupp gets in the end zone this week. So start Cooper Kupp with confidence. You took him there and you took him as a top end guy. I think you got to go Cooper Kupp. It's a good matchup again against Philadelphia. So Johnny Maz, no problem. I will of course answer your question. John Brown or Zach Moss. I like my instinct right now says John Brown. John Brown in that matchup, I think against Buffalo, we saw him get some good looks. He still looks great. Stephon Diggs looked okay too, but John Brown has that relationship with Josh Allen. I would go John Brown over Zach Moss. Zach Moss is a good running back, but he's still going to share the work with Devin Singletary. Sorry. Joe Hopper, Corey Davis, or Metcalf. Come on, Joe. What is going on, buddy? You got to go with Metcalf there. No question about it. If you're still here, subscribe to the channel, like the page. Corey Davis had a great week 1, but Metcalf is the real deal. He is the guy that's going to get that work. Russell Wilson could be the number 1 fantasy quarterback this year, and Metcalf is going to be an absolute lock there. So thanks for coming by, guys. You're very welcome for the questions. I hope I'm getting every single one right. Trey S. Yo, what up? Good morning, my friend. I think I saw you last week, Trey. If you weren't here last week, subscribe to the channel. Turn on those notifications so you know every time we go live. Those notifications help a ton for our system, for the algorithms of YouTube, and it means a ton to us. So he's got a question. 2 questions. Full PPR. Melvin Gordon against a stout defense. Yes, he is. Or James White against the failing at being the next CMC. Also, Big Ben or Wentz. Yeah, James White is failing at being the next CMC. You are right. I started James White last week, and he was a letdown. He got a little banged up. And it had me concerned for a little while. He came back in, but we saw Sony Michel get some work, but it ended up being Cam Newton. I think James White does bounce back this week, but there is going to be the involvement of Sony Michel, and then obviously the risk of Cam Newton rushing in for the touchdown. So I would go Melvin Gordon, even though it's a tougher matchup. Seattle's defense is good. It's not great. I think Seattle defense is a pretty decent stream this week. Maybe New England fumbles a little bit to ride the high that they had last week. To me, New England didn't look super great last week against Miami. So for them to look really good against Seattle might be a stretch. So tough matchup. I would go Melvin Gordon, and then Carson Wentz or Big Ben. Man, I mean, Carson Wentz disappointed a ton of fantasy owners last week. Big Ben looked pretty good. His arm is pretty good. I would go Big Ben against Denver over Carson Wentz. Thanks for coming by, Trey. I think I saw you last week. I can't remember. Subscribe if you haven't. You guys are awesome. We love the community. Interact with the Snap community. Thanks for subscribing, Trey. We're probably only 15 away from 300. We can get to 300. 10 minutes until game time. Holy crap, guys. We got some work to do here. The Blue Crew, you guys are coming last minute. All right. Melvin Gordon or Zach Moss. I would go Melvin Gordon. Morgan coming in. Yo, what up, Morgan? Subscribe to the channel, brother. We've got choose four. Miles Sanders, Austin Eckler, Amari Cooper. I assume that's Calvin Ridley, not Riley Ridley. Robert Woods and Paris Campbell. All those are awesome. Let me enter that one. Carlos, start. Man, okay, I'll get to that one in a second. Morgan. So I still feel confident with Miles Sanders. So start Miles Sanders and Austin Eckler. And then I would go with Amari Cooper, and between Calvin Ridley and Robert Woods is a good problem to have. But I would go Calvin Ridley in that matchup because of the over-under we have in that Dallas game. I've talked about it lots this game, or this live stream. Calvin Ridley over Robert Woods, but they're close. Calvin Ridley might be 8 or 9 in my rankings, and Robert Woods is between 11 and 12. So I like starting with the running backs and then going with those wide receivers. If you want to be risk adverse, maybe sit down Miles Sanders and go Eckler, Cooper, Ridley, and Woods. That would be the other way to go, Morgan. Miles Sanders coming back from an injury. We're not sure how much of a workload he's going to get. I still think he's going to be very good, but that offensive line from Philly looked really bad last week. Boston Scott didn't do anything. So that's kind of where I would go. Yeah, thanks Morgan for coming by from Sleeper. If you have a chance, subscribe. We love it. There's only 16 people watching now. If you could like the video, it means the world. Turn on notifications, and we will answer your questions every single week. That is a good problem to have. I love Paris Campbell. You have too many studs ahead of Paris Campbell this week. So, yeah, we'll be here every week. I'll keep up to date with that one, and we will be good to go. Hunter Henry or Dallas Goddard. This is going to be almost the last question before games start here, guys. So I was happy to see Hunter Henry get a bunch of looks, but I would probably still go with Goddard over Henry. No, go Hunter Henry over Goddard. I've got Hunter Henry as a top 6 tight end. Goddard is closer to 8 and 9. So thanks for coming by, Carlos. I know it's last minute, but go Hunter Henry. Stick with your stud over Dallas Goddard, who had a really good week 1. Preston Williams or Rager rest of season. Rager rest of season. Absolutely, Michael. Thanks for coming by. I think Rager is going to be super involved with that offense. Preston Williams is good, but he's going to be better with Devontae Parker hurt. So I think that Preston Williams still has a pretty good safe floor, but Rager is the better talent, no question about it. So I'm going to go to, I have 5 minutes here. I'm going to go to my lineups and talk to you guys. Watson or Newton, I would go Watson. Robinson or Swift. Kelly, that one's tough for me. Swift or Robinson. Oh man, that is tough. I love DeAndre Swift and his talent, but we know Adrian Peterson is going to be there. I would still go James Robinson in a tough matchup, Kelly. So thanks for coming in last minute. Go Robinson over Swift. It's kind of close. I want to see Swift come out there and be the bell cow before I'm ready to start him. So, Sleek, Marquis Brown or Cooper Kupp. Oh man, I've got Kupp on the bench right now. Scared of cornerback matchup. Yeah. I like Marquis Brown. We're hoping Marquis Brown. That's a pretty good play. Gronk or Ebron. Chris, thanks for coming by, man. You know what? I kind of like Ebron in that matchup. I know Gronk is probably going to get a touchdown, but go Ebron over Gronk, Chris. Thanks for coming by. Last minute, 5 minutes to kick off, guys. I'm gonna stick on. If you guys are willing to stay, I will stick on to this and watch the games with you. Comment in the questions if you wanna watch the games live with me. I'll throw on Red Zone right now. I've got my own start sits to go with. I got Gallup going. I got, what's that, Scotty? Okay. Jonathan Taylor going, and there we go. It's fine. All right, I'm starting Taylor in a matchup. I've got here this Deadeye League we're in. I've got Odell. I'm going to start Sammy Watkins over these guys. Yep, I think so. Boredom League. I'm in too many leagues, guys. All right, I'm flexing Calvin Ridley and TJ and Hunter Henry. All right, guys. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate everyone still watching. 13 watching. Like and subscribe. I'm going to end the podcast. We're good to go. Hopefully, I got all your questions right. And good luck in week 2, guys. We'll see you later. Oh, Sutton or Watkins. Go, oh, shit. Watkins. I'll answer him. Oh, it's still going. Go Sutton. Yeah. Thanks for the question, guys. There we go. We're done. Thanks for coming by. See you later, guys.